over 50% of new hires will fail. Why is that? They didn't do a great job hiring. It's a skill set that if you learn to master, it will set you apart. But here's the catch. Always be transparent. Always come up with a solution. The next level at Aligned Executive Solutions. This steady reduction in the authenticity of interviews has contributed to an ugly failure rate among new hires. Data from multiple sources reveal that within 18 months, often over 50% of new hires will fail. And this high level of hiring failure occurs across all job levels, from hourlies to CEOs. So what does that mean? It's going to cost you in your bottom line if you don't know how to do that right. Welcome back. My name is Mike Polito. I'm with Aligned Executive Solutions. And on this podcast, we talk about ways to reduce costs, cost avoidance, things that will impact your bottom line, leaving you maximum profitability. We do this in unconventional ways, and we do it by looking at people. We look at systems. We look at innovation, also through the lens of advancing technology. So here's my commitment to you. Everything that I have here, I want it to be low effort for you. I want to make it easy and not take a lot of your time. I want to make it high impact so that you can begin applying and using these tools, because if you don't, you risk falling behind. And right now, more than ever, you have to learn not only how to hire the best, but also to detect any potential issues that could impact your bottom line down the road. What can you do about it? We're going to talk about this specific problem of people not knowing how to accurately screen during the interview process. But also, if you happen to be looking for a job right now, you might want to pay attention still, because not only is this for hiring managers, but you're going to learn a thing or two as the candidate and how you can stand out from the competition and how you can prepare for that interview. I'm going to give you some strategies and frameworks as well to solve this. And then we have to keep with the times. So I will be using AI. I'll give you all the prompts so you can use them yourself. Feel free to use whatever AI platform that you want to use. For purposes of this demonstration, I'm planning to use Grok. You'll get to see exactly all the prompts and all the output. So let's get into it. All right, so I already have this lined up for you, and I pulled up a job description here on ZipRecruiter. You can use whichever job searching engine that you like to use, but this is only for demonstration purposes only, and I picked a completely random job. As you can see at the top, all jobs in remote USA. But before we get into that, I do want to speak with you about what the whole point of this is, and the best people to do this particular thing, which is learning how to ask the right questions that will actually draw out all the weaknesses of the candidate that you are interviewing. But here's the catch. The catch is you do this without them even being able to detect it. The second thing that you will do is learn to detect where in that answer you're going to pull a string. And I'm going to be showing you exactly how to do that. Look, it's not to draw out everything that's bad about the candidate. The whole purpose behind it is because most candidates will come in to tell you only the good. So the challenge or the obstacle becomes, how do I get their weak points out of them, but do it in a way that doesn't put them on the offensive? That's the key. Now, if you are someone that is currently searching for a job, you're going to want to note that and keep that in mind, because as a candidate, learn to detect when the interviewer is doing that, and then always be transparent. Always come up with a solution. Turn any negative into a positive. What you did about it, how you corrected it. Because once it slips out, you have to learn how to backtrack, truthfully explain what you did about it. The best hiring managers know how to do this, not only for entry-level jobs, but at all levels of a business, up to the CEO. So now for our demonstration. The first prompt I'm going to tell it is, you are an expert at interviewing. Do you understand? You always want to tell the AI what it is up front so it can get itself in that mindset. You also want to tell it that it's an expert at this specific skill that we are digging into. Yes, I understand. I'm ready to dive into interviewing mode. What's the context, or who are we interviewing? But before we do that, I want to give it a bit more information. You are an expert at asking questions in such a way that it draws out every candidate weaknesses subtly. Again, I appreciate all your strengths. Everyone generally tends to think they're the best at whatever. I don't care about that. I already go in there with that assumption. I kind of almost see this sometimes as a game because what I want to do is see what you're hiding, what you're not telling me. And then I'm going to tell it again, do you understand? Or should I give you some examples? Is I'm going to give it a job description for the administrative assistant. Let me provide you the job description. So now I'm going to go back to my role here for administrative assistant, and I'm just literally going to take this. Actually, you can do this one of two ways. You can copy paste it, okay? Or you can take that link right there, take this link and copy paste it right into your Grok or whichever AI tool that you would like to use. Now, if you are interested in applying for this particular job, like I said, I randomly picked it. I'm not being paid for anything that I mentioned in this podcast. This is purely for demonstration and informational purposes only because we have to take it to the next level. The competition is going to get really tough. And how you use these tools, which by the way, they're not going away, it's going to be very important and will set you apart from the rest. And if you're not already doing that, make sure you're practicing daily. Oh, page access failed. Okay, so then I will just go ahead and I'm going to do this. Here's the job description. Okay, so let's do this instead. Oh, is this going to be a pain? There we go. Now, as you can see, I'm using expert mode at Grok. And this is expert mode as of November 11th, 2025. Okay, so here we have, it gives us the weaknesses. Interview questions to subtly reveal candidate weaknesses. Okay, here we go. Tell me about a time when you had to coordinate a complex meeting involving multiple stakeholders across different time zones. What steps did you take and how did it turn out? If I were applying for this role, I would not be qualified to answer that question, but I'm going to go ahead and put myself in that situation where I have not coordinated a complex meeting myself, but I've had executive assistants do this on my behalf. So I want to take what knowledge I do have on how to do this and apply it to the situation. So what I would say, well, even though I haven't had direct experience in coordinating a complex meeting across different time zones, let me tell you what I have done that's similar, and then go through the actual steps that I took. First, I went to diagnose every single site that I had responsibility for in the various time zones. I started to see that there was a missing link between the various sites that I was working at. They were not connected and often encountering the same issues. In some cases, those issues had been solved at other locations. So what I did is I brought the team together, and although I wanted to do it as cost effective as possible, did you pick up on that? I'm bringing cost into the dialogue. Well, instead, what I did, I said this was too valuable. So I created these in-person workshops. And of course, we had a budget. We had to be concerned, but it was so critical to resolve these network issues within our company. So there's an example. Now, you can actually type your answer right in there and practice, or you can actually go through a mock interview process. So let's say that I'm going to apply for this job, but I'm going to tell it very specifically and that this is going to be a mock interview. So one of the tips that I have for you here is I like making sure that it knows who I am, but I also like separating out who I'm not. So what I do is I'll use this prompt. A client of mine is interested in applying for this role. The client would like you to simulate a mock interview with him, okay, with the intent of practicing ahead of the interview. I'm going to ask first, how would you go about doing this? To simulate a mock interview for your client, I'd approach it in a structured, professional manner, make it as realistic and helpful as possible for practice. Prep and setup, review the job description, opening the interview, start with a warm introduction, questioning strategy. If your client is ready, we can start the simulation now. I'll role play as the interviewer. You or your client can respond as a candidate. To keep it flowing, reply with the answers one at a time, and I'll proceed to the next question with any feedback. Let's assume a 1 to 2 minute limit per answer for realism. Keep responses concise but detailed. The best interviewers know how to ask these types of questions, but the second thing was know how to pull strings. But in order to do that, you need to be able to detect it. So detect the string, then pull on it. For the candidate, make sure that you detect if they just pull the string and reverse course immediately and truthfully. You want to always be as transparent as possible in that process. Okay, so here's the first question. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and drop a string and see what happens. Can you tell me a bit about your professional background and why you're interested in this administrative support role? So I'm going to say my client responded as follows. Again, because I want to keep myself out of it. I don't want to confuse it with who I am, what my experience is. My client responded as follows. I've been an administrative assistant for many years. Let's be specific, for 10 years. Although I haven't, why am I interested in this role? Okay. I recently was terminated and I desperately need a job. So let's see if it pulled a string. Thank you for sharing that. It's great to hear about your decade of experience in administrative roles. That's a solid foundation for this position. Here's the feedback. This response is honest, but in a real interview, consider framing the termination more positively. There you go. Focus on what you learned or how it motivated you without oversharing desperation, as it might come across as less confident. Tie it back to why this role excites you specifically, like the opportunity to use AI tools or support executives in a dynamic environment. Solid start overall. I kind of disagree with that. The next question, tell me about a time when you had to coordinate a complex meeting involving multiple stakeholders across different time zones. What steps did you take and how did it turn out? My client responded, I've had to do this once before and it didn't go so smoothly. That's actually why I got fired. Please do not ever respond like this, but I'm deliberately acting as the coach for my client, right? So I'm giving it deliberately bad answers to see what it does. I appreciate you being candid about that experience. It's helpful to hear about real challenges. Here's the feedback I should give my client. Honesty is good, but in interviews, frame setbacks positively by focusing on what you learned and how you've grown. For example, it taught me to double check time zones with tools like World Time Buddy. Avoid leading with negative outcome like termination, as it might raise concerns. Pivot to proactive steps instead. Keep building on your 10 plus years of experience. Describe a situation where you handled incoming communications for a busy executive. Were there any challenges in prioritizing your responses, and how did you address them? You get the point here. What we've done now is learn how to ask the right questions, how to use a job description to be able to get all the weaknesses, right? All the questions that will draw out the weaknesses from the candidate. Yes, we do want to see all the strengths, but just human nature, in my opinion, is that most candidates go into this by only wanting to talk about the good and be silent on the failures. We all fail. We've all had failures in our lives. It's okay. Get over it. It's about what you did to get up and recover from the fail. So you can do this with any job description to help you either prepare for the interview or for the candidate to help them in preparation for the interview. Be truthful and don't get upset. Don't take anything personal. One of the number one rules I've learned in life. And number two, be transparent. All right, so let's go ahead and review what we've learned here. So we learned that you can use these AI tools to help prepare you. You still have to think. You still have to know what prompts to enter, contextualize based prompts. Use it as a tool. Recognize that it's not perfect. It's not always going to be right. You have to be able to think still. But through practice, you're going to get better at learning how to ask these types of specific questions. You're also going to learn the different format of interviews that exist. You might want to consider asking it things like, what type of format for this interview is best? Individual, a panel interview, presentation interview. Be specific to the job that you're recruiting for. When you learn to master this skill, what will happen? You're going to hire the best talent. You're then going to want to do everything possible to retain the talent. Let's go back to cost avoidance. You save money, you reduce your costs every time you don't have to replace someone because the work isn't getting done. You're not able to deliver product to customers. You have back orders, you have delays. Regardless, everything that I talk about here is about preserving the value of your business, increasing the value of your business. And as always, we do that through understanding people, systems, innovation, and technology. In the next video, I'm going to give you a systems example, a real life failure that I experienced that was eye-opening, and that is related to having to manage an evacuation from a wildfire right here in Orange County. All the things that I learned from it, all the things that went well, and the things, more importantly, that went wrong. What issues came to the surface and what we did to resolve it. As always, I encourage constructive feedback, so let's go back and review my commitment to you, and you answer in the comment section. Was this low effort for you to watch? Was it high impact for you personally? And what specific things did you take away from this? I want to make all of my tools easy for you to apply, practical, and solution-oriented. If you believe that you found value in this, please consider following the channel. And even better would be if you know of someone that could benefit from this type of information in order to quickly accelerate their career as well as stand out from the competition. Please consider sharing this message with them. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. You're an HR professional seeking professional development credits. You can earn 20 of those by reaching out to me at info@aasresults.com. I'll be sure to include a link with my contact information down below.